Hi Reddit, I'm 30 years old and, until recently, I had a job I loved, an apartment I was proud of, and a sister I thought I could trust with my life. Her name is Melissa. She's 26, charming as hell, and could talk her way out of anything, even a burning building, I swear. She's always been the golden one in our family, the one with the pretty smile and the sad eyes that made people want to save her. She's gotten away with things since we were kids, but I never thought she'd do this. It started 6 months ago, but I didn't know what was really happening until last week. At the time, I just thought Melissa was crashing with me for a while. She'd said her roommate kicked her out, and I was her big sister, so of course I let her stay. She'd been hopping from job to job for years, and I figured she just needed some time to get on her feet again. So, I gave her a spare key, told her to make herself at home, and trusted that she'd be gone in a month or two. She didn't leave. Not after 2 months. Not after 4. And slowly, little things started going missing: makeup, clothes, my shoes. I'd come home and swear the thermostat was set higher than I'd left it, or that my laptop was moved. I chalked it up to me being tired or forgetful. I mean, I was working 10-hour days at a publishing firm, pushing for a promotion I'd been waiting on for years. My boss, Aaron, had started asking me to join high-level meetings, and I really believed I was next in line. So when my boss started acting off, I figured maybe he was stressed. At first, he was friendly, supportive, even flirty sometimes. Then out of nowhere, he grew cold. Distant. Meetings became short. I'd send reports and never hear back. One time I asked him if everything was okay, and he gave me this look, like I was the last person he wanted to see. I started panicking. Was I underperforming? Did I do something wrong? Then came the worst day of my career. I got called into HR. At first, I thought maybe they were promoting me behind closed doors. But no, it was way worse. Apparently, someone had reported me for violating company ethics, using my position to solicit favors from a senior executive. The executive? Aaron. My boss. They said there were messages. Flirty, inappropriate, bold. I was stunned. I had never sent anything like that. I asked for proof. They wouldn't show me. All I got was a warning and an internal review period that required me to work remotely while they investigated further. My access to internal systems was restricted. My calendar disappeared. Aaron wouldn't return any of my emails. It felt like my entire career had been ripped out from under me in a single conversation. I went home, completely wrecked, and found Melissa lounging on the couch like nothing was wrong. And that's when I started noticing some very weird things. The minute I walked through the door that day, I knew something was off. Melissa was wearing one of my sweaters. Not borrowed, mine. She never asked, never returned the stuff she took, and somehow always had a reason for why it was just temporary. But what made my stomach churn wasn't the sweater, it was her laptop. My laptop. The one I use for work, the one I shut down and put away every night before bed. The same one that now sat open in front of her on the coffee table, screen tilted just enough that I couldn't see it from where I stood. She didn't even flinch when she noticed me staring. Just smiled and said she was just checking some things. I didn't question it. I should have, but I didn't. I was too drained, too overwhelmed from the HR meeting. My brain was already unraveling, and the idea of starting a fight with her felt like too much. But my gut wouldn't shut up. That night, I waited until she went to sleep. Then I quietly opened her bedroom door, and found my makeup bag, my charger, and 3 pairs of earrings I'd been searching for since last month sitting on her nightstand like they belonged there. And that wasn't even the worst part. Her phone was glowing. A message notification was still on the lock screen. I wasn't trying to snoop, but my name was in the preview. I froze. The message was from a number saved as a rose dot. It said, "You're bolder than I thought, Lissa. Same place tomorrow?" My chest tightened. I took a picture of it on my phone and tiptoed back to my room. It took me hours to put the pieces together. The missing clothes, the coldness from Aaron, the investigation, the fact that Melissa never used her own name on social media or dating apps. She always joked that she'd use mine because it sounded more sophisticated. It couldn't be. It shouldn't be. But everything in my gut told me it was. My sister was impersonating me. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up digging through every trace of her activity I could access. I tried logging into my work email from her laptop, locked. But when I checked my own laptop, the browser history was cleared. Every single tab. Every saved password. Except one. A dating site I'd never used. Logged in under my name. And the inbox? Full of messages from Aaron. That's when the world started spinning. Because now, it wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just theft. It was full-on identity fraud. And it wasn't over yet. The next morning, I called in sick, not that anyone at work would have noticed. I wasn't even on the schedule anymore. My profile had been temporarily deactivated, and all I had was a vague promise from HR that they'd circle back once the investigation was done. Meanwhile, Melissa was in the kitchen humming to herself, frying eggs like she hadn't just burned my entire life to the ground. I sat there, across from her, quietly watching. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her phone, confront her, demand answers. But instead, I played it cool. If she had gone this far, impersonating me to date my boss, then I needed more than suspicions. I needed proof. Not just for work. For the police, if it came to that. So I acted normal. I smiled. I asked about her plans that day. She told me she had a job interview. Said it was for some tech admin position. I didn't ask questions, I just nodded, pretending like I believed her. She left around 11 a.m. And I went straight to her room. Now, before anyone calls me out for snooping, hear me out, I had to. I didn't go looking for drama. I was already drowning in it. But the only way out was to find the truth. So I rifled through her drawers, checked under the bed, scanned her desk. And then I found it. A small, locked box tucked inside her suitcase. It didn't even take much effort to open, it was one of those cheap keylock ones from an office supply store. She'd hidden the key under her makeup bag. Inside? Everything. Printed emails with my signature at the bottom. Fake pay stubs with my name and her bank account number. A prepaid phone with messages between her and Aaron, flirty, personal, explicit. And photos. Photos of her. Wearing my clothes. In my office. Sitting at my desk, smiling like she owned the place. Suddenly, everything clicked. Melissa had been showing up at my work as me. While I was working remotely, while I was busy putting together reports, she'd been walking into the office, charming Aaron, using my name, feeding him stories about our secret relationship. All while I sat at home, wondering why everyone was treating me like a stranger. She didn't just sabotage me. She replaced me. I sat on the floor with all that evidence spread around me, shaking, nauseous. I didn't know what to do first. Call the cops? HR? My parents? Hell, Aaron? But then something even worse happened. Her phone buzzed. She'd left it charging on her dresser. And there, plain as day, popped up a text from Aaron. Can't stop thinking about last night. You're nothing like you are at work, winking face sought. That's when I realized, this wasn't over. Not only had Melissa stolen my identity, she had slept with my boss. As me. I was paralyzed, staring at that screen, wondering how deep this went. And then, the front door creaked open. She was home. The moment I heard the front door close, I panicked. I shoved everything back into the box's photos, phone, fake paperwork, and slid it under the bed just in time to hear her footsteps in the hallway. I barely made it to the living room before she stepped in. She looked surprised to see me up and dressed, but covered it quickly with a smug little smile. Said the interview had gone great. Said she might even get a call back today. I nodded like I believed her. But inside? I was shaking. I knew what I had to do now. It wasn't just about confronting her. It was about protecting myself before the walls closed in. If she could convince a whole office, my office, that she was me, who knew what else she was capable of? So while she disappeared into the bathroom to take a victory shower, I grabbed my keys and slipped out. I didn't go to the police. I went straight to my office. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Maybe security stopping me at the door, asking why I was back. Maybe someone from HR pulling me into another interrogation. But the lobby receptionist didn't even blink. She greeted me like normal. It hit me all over again, she didn't even have to break in. Melissa looked just enough like me. Same build. Same hair color. Same voice, practically. And no one really looks that closely when you work in a mid-sized corporate office and keep to yourself. I rode the elevator up, heart pounding, and walked straight to Aaron's office. He looked up from his desk and froze. I said nothing. Just stood there and waited. His face shifted, confused, then defensive, then stunned. And finally, guilty. Like he knew. Like he finally realized I wasn't the person he'd been texting. He started to say my name, but I cut him off. I told him to sit down and listen. And for the next 5 minutes, I told him everything. That the woman he'd been seeing was my sister. That she'd been impersonating me. That I'd found the burner phone, the photos, the messages. That I had physical evidence linking every single lie back to her, and to him, whether he meant to get involved or not. And then I told him something that really wiped the smug off his face. I said I had copies. Of everything. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, hands clenched, staring at the floor like it might open up and swallow him whole. I didn't need him to say anything. I just wanted him to know. Before I left, I looked him in the eye and told him the truth. You were so desperate for attention, you didn't even notice she wasn't me. That says more about you than it does about her. Then I walked out. And I thought that would be it. But 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was Melissa. And she wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling to say she knew. When I saw Melissa's name flash across my screen, my whole body went cold. I thought about letting it ring, but curiosity got the better of me. I put her on speaker and didn't say a word. Her voice was calm. Too calm. She said she hoped I enjoyed my little field trip to work. That Aaron had already texted her, warned her I was sniffing around. Her words. Not mine. Then she said something that made my stomach flip. She told me she'd seen the documents were moved. The box. Under her bed. I hadn't covered my tracks well enough. She knew I'd been in her room. And suddenly, the whole tone of the call changed. She said if I ever tried to go to the police or HR or anyone else, she'd make sure I went down with her. She had messages, doctored, probably, that made it look like I'd been involved in everything. That I'd helped her set it up. Apparently, she'd been planning this for months. She had emails written from my accounts, texts sent from my phone while I was asleep, even voice memos recorded where she'd mimicked me and scripted fake conversations. She'd built a digital trail so twisted, it would take a forensic analyst weeks to untangle. Then she said this. No one's going to believe the bitter sister over the charming one. They never have. Why would they start now? And I swear, I stopped breathing for a full 10 seconds. Because she wasn't bluffing. Melissa was always 10 steps ahead. She didn't make moves without cover. And suddenly, it made sense why she'd been so comfortable living under my roof, sleeping in my clothes, hijacking my life, because she thought she could get away with it. And maybe she could. Unless I did something fast. I ended the call without saying a word. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, frozen in my own apartment, realizing something I never wanted to admit. Melissa wasn't just my sister anymore. She was my enemy. And she had declared war. I didn't sleep that night. While Melissa slept 2 doors down like a queen in stolen clothes, I stayed up with every light off, every curtain drawn, mapping out my next move. I knew if I ran to HR now, she'd spin it. If I went to the cops without solid proof, she'd make me look like the jealous, unstable sister with a vendetta. And honestly, they might believe her. So I stopped thinking like the victim. And started thinking like her. Melissa's entire life ran on charm, manipulation, and control. But like any overconfident con, she had a weakness. She liked to win big. The flashier the move, the better. And if I gave her the illusion of a bigger win, she'd go for it. So I created a fake email. Not in my name, but close enough. Just different enough that she wouldn't spot the difference right away. I used it to message her from a burner app, pretending to be someone from Aaron's HR department. I hinted that Aaron had confessed everything about their secret relationship and that the company wanted to offer her a discreet settlement to avoid legal blowback. I made the bait irresistible. I included a fake confidentiality document, one that required her to meet in person to collect the offer. And then I set the meeting location, a private co-working space my friend managed, a place with security cameras. She took the bait. I watched from across the room, hidden behind a privacy divider, as Melissa strolled in, confident as ever. She wore my blazer, and carried a fake work portfolio. She introduced herself as me, signed in under my name, and took a seat, waiting to meet with HR. And that's when I knew I had her. Because I had it all on tape. The stolen identity. The impersonation. The false claims. All of it. By the time she started pacing, checking her phone, wondering where her HR contact was, I had already slipped out the back and emailed the footage to my lawyer. Yep, my lawyer. I hadn't mentioned that part yet. After our last call, I reached out to a legal advisor my company used to consult with. I didn't explain everything right away, just that I believed someone was impersonating me and it was affecting my career. She told me to gather proof, keep my distance, and don't confront her directly. And now? I had the proof. Melissa was caught, red-handed, posing as me on camera in a professional building, logging in under my name. And I knew exactly what to do with that footage. But even as I celebrated the first real win, I felt something off. Because that night, when I came home, Melissa was gone. And so was everything. When I walked through the front door and saw the living room empty, like really empty, I knew she'd figured it out. The coat she always threw over the armchair? Gone. The cheap perfume she doused the hallway in every morning? Faded. The drawer she'd claimed for her junk? Wiped clean. I ran to her room and yanked the door open. Vacant. The suitcase was gone. Her clothes, her toiletries, even the spare key I'd stupidly given her were missing. The only thing she left behind was an empty coffee cup on my desk and a sticky note with a smiley face on it. No words. Just a smiley face. Like this was a game. Like she was winning. I grabbed my phone and checked the footage again, heart pounding. She must have realized it was a setup. Maybe it was the way the meeting never happened. Maybe she saw someone in the co-working space she recognized. Or maybe, God, maybe Aaron tipped her off. Either way, she was gone. And not just from my apartment. From everywhere. Her number? Disconnected. Her Instagram? Deleted. Her email? Bounced back. I called every mutual friend we had, even our cousin who she hated, and no one had heard from her. Some hadn't even known she'd been living with me. And just when I started to believe she'd slipped away completely, I got an alert. An email. Not to me, but to my job inbox. The one I hadn't used in days. The subject line? Just in case you thought you won. Attached was a video. I hesitated before opening it. My hands were shaking. But I had to know. And when I played it, my blood turned to ice. It was me, or rather, her pretending to be me, sitting across from Aaron in his office. She was wearing a wire. I didn't know where she got it, or who she sent it to, but I heard every word. And what he said could ruin him. He was talking about HR. How he'd taken care of things so I'd be pushed out. How he couldn't resist me but needed the real me gone so it wouldn't blow back on him. And then, worse, how Melissa had played it better than I ever could have imagined. She was setting him up too. This wasn't just about stealing my life. She was blackmailing my boss. And I'd walked right into the middle of it. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like my body had turned to stone. That video changed everything. Melissa wasn't just impersonating me. She wasn't just after my job, or even Aaron. She was running a long con, one with layers I hadn't even begun to understand. And now, I was sitting on a nuclear bomb that could take us all down. The video showed Aaron, my boss, admitting on camera that he'd actively sabotaged me. That he'd helped remove me from my position to protect the illusion of his relationship with Melissa, who he thought was me. He admitted to manipulating HR. He admitted to hiding things. And he admitted, with a disgusting smirk, that Melissa was smarter than he gave her credit for. Like she was some kind of trophy for fooling him. But here's the thing, he had no idea he was being recorded. Melissa had flipped the con. And I was just collateral damage. I had two options. Option 1, use the video against her. Take everything to HR, show them how far this mess really went, and try to rebuild what was left of my professional reputation. Option 2, go completely silent. Let it all burn, disappear like she had, and start over somewhere else with what little dignity I had left. Neither option felt like winning. But then, I thought of something. What if I didn't choose? What if I used them both? So I sent the video, to myself, to a private legal contact, and to a secure cloud backup. Then I wrote an anonymous email to HR with a different subject line, internal conflict, proof of executive misconduct. No names. Just the facts. I attached the file with a time-delayed link and closed the laptop. Then I called Aaron. I told him I'd seen the video. I told him I knew. And I gave him a very simple choice. Tell the truth to HR, reinstate me. Clear my name. Or that video would be on every news site before he could delete his LinkedIn. There was silence on the other end. Then a quiet, broken, how much do you want? That was all the confirmation I needed. I told him I didn't want money. I wanted my life back. And maybe, just maybe, I was going to take Melissa's down too. But I should have known better. Because not even a full hour later, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "You're not ready for what's coming next." But I am. She wasn't done. Not even close. The message hit me like a punch. You're not ready for what's coming next. It wasn't a bluff. Melissa never bluffed. She threatened with certainty. She moved in silence, and when she struck, it was already too late. I stared at that text for 10 minutes before it clicked. I wasn't just playing defense anymore. I'd pulled the pin on something huge: blackmail, impersonation, executive misconduct, and every person involved had more to lose than I did. And then the storm hit. At exactly 7:42 the next morning, I got a call from HR. A new rep, not the usual quiet voice I'd dealt with before. This one was direct, clipped, tense. She said she wanted to discuss a breach of confidentiality related to internal communications and allegations of criminal impersonation. Apparently, someone had sent in an anonymous tip about me. About how I had been the one faking identities, manipulating my sister into playing a role, framing an executive for misconduct to get ahead. Melissa had struck first. She flipped the narrative completely. She used the very footage I planned to weaponize and rewrote the script, claimed I had forced her to impersonate me as part of a twisted career strategy. That I had orchestrated the blackmail. That I had been unstable, jealous, and vindictive. She sent emails, screenshots, voicemails, all cherry-picked and cut to paint me as some obsessed sister trying to destroy her out of spite. It was brilliant. And horrifying. I was called into an emergency HR meeting that afternoon. The tone wasn't "we're here to help." It was "you need to explain yourself." So I did. All of it. I dropped the real video. I named names. I brought out time-stamped emails, financial trails, screenshots of her posing as me inside that co-working space. I was calm, steady. Not emotional, just precise. And at the end of it all, the HR rep said one thing I'll never forget. "This isn't the first time someone's tried something like this, but it's the first time the accused came in with more proof than the accuser." I left the building with no clear answer. No confirmation. Just, "we'll be in touch." That night, I checked my cloud folder again just to make sure everything was still there. It was gone. The files. The backups. Everything. Deleted. Wiped clean. Melissa had found a way in. She wasn't just playing the game anymore. She was rewriting the rules. I knew she'd done it. Melissa had accessed my cloud backup, bypassed every layer of security I thought was foolproof. The one person I never imagined I'd need to protect myself from, my own sister, had taken everything. Again. But this time, I wasn't angry. I was ready. Because while she was busy deleting digital proof and twisting narratives, she forgot the one thing she could never erase. People. Real people. The co-working space? It didn't just have cameras. It had witnesses. The receptionist remembered her. The building logs showed her signature, my name written in her handwriting. And Aaron? The spineless executive who thought he could stay neutral? After our last conversation, I knew his loyalty was up for sale. So I made him an offer, help me, and I'd leave him out of everything when I handed it over to my lawyer. He'd playing both sides, and he'd go down with her. He folded within minutes. I recorded our call, got him to admit everything, how he believed she was me, how he got caught up in it, how she started pushing for money when he got nervous. He even admitted that he helped her fabricate parts of the HR complaint just to protect himself. And then, I went nuclear. I didn't go back to HR. I went above them. Straight to the board. I dropped a folder, printed and neatly tabbed, into the inbox of every board member, full of statements, video stills, testimony from Aaron, the co-working space footage, and Melissa's own messages. The fallout was immediate. Aaron was put on unpaid leave pending investigation. An internal audit was opened. HR panicked. Turns out this wasn't the first report they mishandled, just the most explosive. I received a formal apology the following week and a very generous settlement. And Melissa? She vanished. The last time anyone saw her, she'd emptied our joint childhood savings account, money our grandma left us, and bought a last-minute ticket to Portugal under a fake name. She hasn't contacted me since. But 2 weeks ago, I got a postcard in the mail. No return address. No message. Just one line, written in her unmistakable handwriting. "You're good. But not done." She was right. I'm not done. I've changed my name. Moved to a new city. Took the settlement and started my own consultancy. Clean slate, clean inbox. No sisters, no secrets. But some nights, when things are too quiet, I check the locks one more time. I glance over my shoulder on the train. I hesitate when a blocked number calls. Because Melissa is still out there. And she doesn't lose. Not for long.